What's up? What's up, everybody? Jason from Hard Money Bankers, Ian at Equity Warehouse. Welcome to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. If you're just tuning in for the first time follower, first time listener, first time watcher, thank you. Welcome to the show. We're going to keep this as entertaining as we can for you. And you might learn something, little tidbits as well. If you're a returned viewer, welcome back. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. We certainly appreciate it. Today's topic is a day in the life of a $50 million property portfolio owner. Ian and I are both going to kind of go over one by one some of the stuff that we do on a regular basis. If anyone has a similar size portfolio and they want to share their experiences of how they operate their business, feel free to chat in the chat box if you're watching this live or listening to this live, and happy to have you on the show as well. Or feel free to comment some things that you work on a regular basis. Felt like this is appropriate. Ian owns about $50 million in real estate in his portfolio between self-storage and apartments and single families and some office. Our portfolio is loans, obviously. I'm a full-time private lender, so that's typically what we do. And I would guess that Ian and my day are probably similar. We're at different parts of our business, obviously, and we definitely do have different types of businesses, but I would guess that our days are somewhat made up of something similar. And I would also venture to guess that, other folks listening or watching that have similar size portfolios are probably similar. Now, one thing I do want to bring up to kind of start this conversation off is we break down our day in what we call offense and defense. In essence, it's growth and transactional. And there's two sides of that. And I think a lot of people don't fully understand. I know a lot of entrepreneurs, real estate agents, real estate investors, every day they're just doing deals, right? They're doing deals. They're working with clients. They're meeting clients. They're doing stuff. And, maybe they have a closing today and it's like, hey, this is a productive day. We went to closing on a deal. We bought a property today, or we sold a property today. In my mind, that's just transactional work. That's part of it. That's the transactional work. I kind of take pride, and I think Ian probably takes pride on being offensive, playing offense every day and doing the growth, productive stuff, because the hard work we put in today doesn't pay off today. It pays off tomorrow. And that's what it is. So you have to do that stuff. If you flipped a house and you sold it today and you made 10 grand, 50 grand, doesn't matter, 60 grand, however, whatever you made, your hard work was in the past, right? You were playing offense in the past in order to do that transactional work today. So don't fall in that trap. We're going to dig into topics and stuff related to this. I like to say that you should do at least 50-50. So 50% of your day should be offense, 50% of your day should be defense. When I say defense, that doesn't necessarily mean like just putting out fires, just transactional work, like reactive work. There's a few different ways to say it. Proactive, reactive, however you want to do it. So you got transactional stuff and then you have business owner growth stuff. 50-50 is a good split. I typically like to do more than that. I'd like it to be more 75-25, but you get the point.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to sit there and quantify every day I'm going to do exactly this. And it's when you go back and look over a course of a week, was it 75% or 60% offense? Was it all defense? And usually by the end of the week, you can tell when someone's been on defense all the time because they're stressed out. They're just you can just tell that their personality is just showing that it's defense. I got a good one's always like, man, nothing but problems this week. I'm always putting out fires. I can't believe this is happening. That's defensive moves all the time versus stepping in and going, all right, let's go play offense and let's go look at deals. And everyone's always like, well, I know Jason gets it a lot. We get it a lot of how are you guys always looking at deals? Where do you get that kind of time? It's like, well, we've built systems and processes that'll allow us to have the free time to do that. And I was talking with a buddy of mine, John Farling, who we've had on several times. I talk to him pretty regularly. Him and Jason probably the most. And we were talking today. I was like, man, I feel like I need to go do a deal. And he's like, well, why? I was like, I don't know, but I can feel in my body, that's where I'm getting at, in my mental headspace of man, I feel out of balance. And those are all things that you start to notice, especially when you play offense, especially when you start executing on deals and growing. And to grow a $50 million portfolio, a $70 million portfolio, a $100 million portfolio, or one house, I guess technically it's not a portfolio, but one house, right? Whatever it is, it's all the same actions over and over and over again. And things are going to speed up in some areas and things are going to slow down in others. In I wish we would have documented these from both of our starts of like, hey, we're 1 month into investing and this is what my day looks like. And then 3 years into investing, this is what my day looks like. And then 5, 7, and 10, because, it's more about HR and taxes and all kinds of goofy stuff now than it was before, where it's like, man, I just need money to go do a goddamn deal. Right. Like, and it's funny how things change. But, Jason, I'll ask you straight up, like, what does your average day look like for you right now as you guys operate a $50 million hard money? I don't call it a fund, whatever you guys call it. A $50 million hard money loan portfolio. What does your day look like?
I mean, it's similar. When you just said that, it's similar to the beginning. It's similar to day one, where it's a lot of proactive offense. And what I mean by that and growth is deal flow. Finding deals every day, finding capital every day. And there's different ways that you can do that. We've been pretty self-funded for a while, so we haven't really had to go proactively raise capital. But if you do things the right way from the beginning, your business will snowball without you having to push the snowball down the hill, right? It's a lot of heavy lifting up front, time, potential money, to do stuff. And then you kind of look back and stuff kind of, I don't want to say runs itself, because that's not really fair to the hard work that you put in, but the momentum grows itself, time after time and time, just out of pure force. So every real estate investor, every business owner has to be finding deals. And if you're in a business that is capital intensive, and raising capital, finding deals, raising capital, finding deals, raising capital. I mean, think about what happens in a real estate transaction. There's the deal, there's the money, and there's the expertise and like doing the deal, right? Putting the sweat equity in is, running the transaction. And this isn't perfect science, but arguably they're all worth about a third, right? I have the deal. It's probably worth a third. I bring in the money. It's probably worth a third. If I'm doing all the heavy lifting, the transactional and the know-it-all, that's probably a third. So there's so much. I like to divide my day up. In the morning, I like to do growth stuff, proactive stuff, offensive stuff. And then in the afternoon, I like doing defensive stuff, transactional stuff, things like that. Again, if you can get into the habit of doing it 50-50, it has to be at least 50-50. It can't be any lower. It can't be any lower on the transactional side than 50. It can't be any lower on the growth side of 50%. Like in a perfect world, you'd want 100-0, just 100% growth, 100% business oriented stuff, 100% of, hey, the whole day is molded into, increasing and growing the business because you have teams or staff or automation or whatever, processes, software that run everything. But for most small business owners, especially like portfolios of this size, and I know, $50 million portfolio seems very big, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's one property, right? Because think about this. If you own one property and all you're doing is swinging a hammer, doing everything inside that, there's no scalability. You can't do another deal until this deal finishes, right? And you got to continue, in order to do so, like you have to be doing offense. And it's a very easy trap to get stuck on defense and then just, being a slave for the most part inside your business, unless you create early habits to play offense and do productive things. So there's obviously more than, there's obviously more related to like, client retention and setting up new processes and softwares and managing employees and things like that. But I think the most relatable one, which is the most, I don't want to say the most important, but one of the most important, is deal flow and finding opportunities and finding deals. And early on, when you don't have a budget, you might be out there hitting the streets in your car and driving for dollars and going to meetings and putting out
Knocking on doors.
bandit signs and handing out business cards. That's what we all did. And then as you grow and you have a budget, you have, social media advertising, you have, you might have other direct mail campaigns, you have referral businesses. You're doing things that are higher leverage than you physically doing them yourself manually.
All right, let me ask you this, because then I'm going to make some comments on what my day looks like. Does your work day have a hard start and stop?
No, not really. A hard, like it has to start and stop at a certain time?
Yeah, like, okay, let me ask it a different way. Can you go home and turn it off? Or like, you go home, turn it off and just like hang with the fam and like whatever? Or like you always have it in the back of your mind, like, all right, we have a big business and like, you know what? I just can't turn it off because I love it so much. Like what?
It doesn't get turned. It doesn't get turned off. You can't turn it off. And if you can turn it off, you're probably in the wrong thing. And I think a lot of people will be like, oh, well, it's good to turn it off and get a fresh start. And that's fine. But like, there's so many moving pieces. And if you're not interested in one side of the business, you might be interested in the other side of the business. Like you might be like, oh, real estate's not all that sexy to me. Okay, well, what's sexy to you? I don't know. Like, do you like the marketing side? Do you like the management side? Do you like like what side of it? Like one side has to be the sexy part of it. And there's things that I don't like and there's things that I do like. And the things you don't like, you typically dread and you back burner them and you don't do them. And that's a very clear indicator that, hey, find somebody else to do that when the time's right. You might not have the budget or the resources to do that right now, but we're always daydreaming about it.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree, because I do know a lot of my friends are like, yeah, I turned it off for like a week. I'm like, how the fuck did you turn it off for a whole? I haven't touched my phone in like 7 days. I'm like, what? Like, I don't even know what that means. We were talking about that yesterday. We had a meeting, me, Dan, and Ryan, and we were just bullshitting. And it's like, dude, I don't get how like some people like where's your phone? Like, how do you communicate during the day when you're in business? Like, I don't understand that. And you're just being available and like turning it off doesn't exist. Like, yeah, we've done better as we've grown, where there's not a lot of outside the bounds work time that needs to be done. Not like the early days where we go lap the beltway and then get home and then account till like midnight or 3 o'clock in the morning and then get up at 6 a.m. and go grind it out, because we didn't have resources or the financial ability to hire the people we needed to do it. So we did it all until we broke. And then we're like, all right, we're going to go hire someone. And then as you hire, yes, it gets a little bit easier, but it's like, yo, if I'm around dicking off and I got nothing going on, I'm on the phone looking for deals. I'm on the phone seeing what I hate to call them competitors, but what my friends are doing of raising capital and how they're structuring deals. I'm breaking down other people's deals to like say, oh man, they're doing the pref in this fashion and they're doing their waterfall this way and the promote looks like that. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting idea, because then you start to apply it for what you're doing. And it's just like you're always learning. And I tend to agree with you. I find it odd. And I know this is a little off topic that like people can turn it off. How do you, if you love what you do and you're in business and it's your business and you love it, I don't understand how you turn it off.
Yeah, but what's there to turn off? And I mean, and here's the thing, like, it's not just the loan or the property or real estate. It's being in love with the process and the business and the marketing, because if you turn this off, you're going to like, there's no business that's going to be sexy enough for you. It's the same thing. It's just one business to the next. Like if you wanted to, I don't know, if you were super passionate about, it doesn't matter, any business, pick any business, whatever, cell phone repair, it doesn't matter. Like it's the same thing. Like the only difference is the product that you're selling.
Correct.
It's the exact same thing. 90% of your day, 100% of your day would be the exact same thing. It's the same thing. So if you're not into it, you're not into it, and that's fine, and nothing wrong with you. I mean, you're limiting yourself on what you're capable of doing, but if that's not bad-mouthing anyone that wants that, but the point is like, it's, we enjoy business. Like, like you enjoy, it's business. That's what it is. It has nothing to do with, what product or widget that you're selling. It's the process of that that's important. So, yeah, I mean, we're always like, listen, it's not, you don't have to like be a brain surgeon to flip a house, to do a loan, to buy a self-storage property. Like the education's out, the information's out there. To be educated on it is pretty darn easy, right? It might take time to learn it a little bit, and you learn from your mistakes, and it takes time to find deals and raise capital. That's not the magic. The magic is, being productive and ambitious and proactive and playing offense and doing it. I'm not the best hard money lender. I don't like that. Like, you're not the best self-storage investor. Like, you don't need to be, right?
Nope.
I think everyone will tell you that. I think I heard Mark Cuban say he's not the best, owner of basketball owner. Like, nobody is. You don't need to be. Like, Warren Buffett's probably not even the best stock picker. He doesn't need to be. Like,
No.
but he's ambitious, and he's doing the block and tackle. I mean, I think a lot of people get very anxious, and they look like they try to figure out what their goals are, and they're like, oh, that's just too unreasonable. I'm never going to get to that. Like, and they don't even try to get to it. But it's just a block and tackle every day. If you're playing offense 50% of the day, your workday could be 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, however you want to do it. Doesn't matter. 24 hours, however you want to do it. But if you're doing baby steps every day, I think the best analogy is the snowball, the term, the snowball, the word, the snowball. I love it more than anything else, right? Because it grows, right? As it grows, it goes downhill. It gets more and more momentum. Then no matter what happens, it just gets so big. It can't get knocked off its course. And, we're in a funky spot in the real estate market right now that who knows what's going to happen. But guess what? If you wake up one day and something drastically changes, whatever, the government bans you from doing self-storage investing or hard money loans, or, interest rates double or they do whatever. Well, guess what? You have so much momentum that, it's going to take a little tick and a little notch out of your snowball, but it's not going to stop it. It's not going to slow it down. You have the experience, you have the knowledge, like you have the wherewithal. And let's say worst case scenario, it's illegal to flip real estate. Let's just say worst case scenario. Okay. Well, guess what? The good news now, Ian, is you just use that skill set and you go repair cell phones. And that's your new company. It doesn't matter what it is. It's the same thing. 90 to 95% of it is that. And then whatever product, service you're inserting is just what it's related to every day.
Yep, 100%. And I think a lot of people just really need to think about what real estate does for them. And if it is to go spend a ton of time with family, then it's like, okay, well then build your business in that fashion. You can't be a part-time business owner. And that's at all levels, from a management level, from a accounting level, from an operations level. It's hard especially if you have employees or want to have employees, to understand the message. And when they see the leaders not all in, it makes it hard for everyone not to be all in, right? And we all have to step up and do something. And sure, our all in could potentially be different than some of our employees because we own it. But then in the same sense, the goal is to find employees and team members that have the same exact vision and bleed and think exactly what you think. And sure, real estate might not be the sexiest thing to everyone, but there's still people that are looking for good quality places of employment that have passion, that want to see the company succeed, to be a part of it. And not everybody is set out to have the ownership in the same way. And you need to recognize that early on when you're looking at building your business. And I mean, I'll just straight up be honest with you. My day's a little different than Jay's. I get up, I try to knock out all my BS as fast as possible. And then hopefully I usually by 10 a.m., 10 to 12, 10 to 1, kind of let some stuff stack up. But I'm out there looking at the deals. I'm seeing what's going on. I'm digging around. I'm listening to podcasts. That's when I get my creative juices flowing. And then, yes, I run a little more defense throughout the afternoon, but I try to knock out in that first 4 hour window. I try to knock out all my BS. And then, sometimes when I get home, again, this goes back to turning it off. I try to get my BS done. Then I try to be creative for the rest of the day. Then after the creative's done, I'll run blocker, defense, whatever you want to call it, on any major issues that kind of pop up and come through, because I feel completed. I feel purposeful once I've done that big task of, all right, I've got all my bullshit done. And then there's some days when I come in, I'm like, man, I actually want bullshit to handle. and there's nothing to handle. Then I kind of have a funk until I see a deal or I see something that I like. And I know, Jay, you said it earlier, like it'd be great to be on offense 100% of the time, but I don't know that that's even healthy. I know being on defense all the time is not healthy, but I also wonder if you are on offense all the time, is that really sustainable? And it sounds sexy and it sounds good.
Well, I think Gary V of the world is on offense. Not like,
that's fair. Yeah, fair.
Like bigger guys are, and I'm not saying they're not doing some transactional stuff, but like you get to the point of capacity, and it's like all of a sudden it's like someone could work for 1 month, like as a solo person on this, and Gary V could probably accomplish it in 1 minute, just on experience and knowledge and
that is
ambition and like. So think about this is something I think about all the time because like I think a lot of people are like I'm not wired like Gary V. Gary V is just a good example because he's a maniac. He's on everybody's social media, so he's just an easy person to think about it. But like, let's say you're like Gary V up here, and then you're a one person entrepreneur right here that's like wants to start flipping houses, and you're like, I want to be big, 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 and it's just like it's just different levels. And what we do on growth stuff today is different than I did on day one. Like what was productive for me to do on day one was like, oh, I got to go create a loan application or a scope of work. Cool. I got to go research and do it. I have to go figure out, I'm not managing an employee. I'm going to figure out who I need to hire and how to hire them. I'm not like, like today it might be like, hey, we're managing a team of people that are posting and recreating content for us. Back then it was like, hey, I got to go buy a digital camera and, learn how to shoot a video on YouTube, right? Like now it's automated. You can spit out significantly more as you grow. So like you got to start small with something and then all of a sudden like it just kind of grows with the momentum. And the one thing that I don't get, and I know we kind of talk about this sometimes, is how folks are like, yeah, I don't really have much to do today. And to me, it's like, well, unless you've hit your goals, which is great if you have, but unless you've hit your life goals, then what does that even mean? Like, there's things that I won't do that I'll back burner. It's not like I have this completely regimented day that I can't do anything. But like, if I'm like, I'm not going to be at my office just twiddling my thumbs like, oh, what should I work on today? Like, I got lists of stuff.
Yeah, there's always
daily, short-term, long-term, like stuff that has to get done today, stuff that has to get done this week, stuff that has to get done, this month or year, and then like really, really big picture. So until I've hit that the end, there's always going to be stuff. And I've heard that from multiple people. It's like, yeah, I'm not really sure. Like that to me, that's just a sense of loss of direction. They don't know what they want. Yep. And if that's what they want of like, hey, I want to come to my office or I want to, open up my computer at my home office and just kind of like do my own thing with not having much care in the world, that's fine. I'm not bad mouthing them. If you hit your goal and like, that's what you want. I mean, to be honest, that's what I'm striving for. I mean, you've probably heard this story that I've shared with a lot of folks related to, and I know I shared the story because I looked at one of the reels that one of our guys posted and it had a picture of Dave Lindahl in that reel.
Oh, yeah.
So I've already shared this story before, but like, I went to an event early on, in like mid 2000s, and it was a real estate investing event. And Dave Lindahl pulls out, had like a dress shirt on, and he pulled out all these checks, and he was like, I got so many rental properties, I don't even know who these tenants are. I just get checks. I can't stop these checks even if I wanted to. And that hit me. I was like, fuck, I want that. It can be checks. It can be monthly payments. It can be cash flow from real estate. It doesn't matter what it is, but like that hit me. And until that happens, like unstoppable. And I mean, at a decent sized portfolio, like you have that, like you have 5 properties. Let's say you only have 5 properties and something like you're getting that. But until you've reached that goal, like all of my goals are passive related, not active related.
Yeah.
Income, work, things like that it runs itself. And I know people think that like they don't, when they question it, I don't think they get it. But it's just like, yeah, I want everything to just completely run itself passively. And then when that happens, it works.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I had this exact conversation. It's funny. We had a conversation, and then a buddy of ours, he had hit me up later in the day as of recent, and we were bullshitting, and it was funny. It was like the complete opposite story because it kind of tells you where I'm at. Jason called me up. He's like, dude, I still think like you guys should sell a piece of the portfolio and just get a massive payday and reinvest that, and then just like reinvest that and just get the passive dividends and like chill. And I'm like, yeah, sounds sexy, because we're always going through something. There's always something going on, right? And then I was like, I don't know. My buddy calls me up. He's thinking about leaving his W-2 job. His portfolio is stable. He's like, I'm making enough money off my portfolio now. I don't know if I should sell a piece and have a big chunk and then have a nest egg and then quit, or I should just live off the dividends now and quit. And I'm like, I don't know. And I think that's where I realized in our conversation today, yes, there's a velocity of money and there's a situation where you should sell and recapture and go. But you also need to know who you are. And I think it's more and more clear every day of like, I like the faucets, like turn the faucet on, cash comes out, turn a faucet on, cash comes out, and just keep growing those. And at some point at a later date, there will be a massive exit. There'll be massive amounts of capital to deploy into one big deal or a few big deals. That'll be more of a stable return with a less headache, less gray hairs, more hair on top of my head, hopefully, and not have to deal with the down dirty shit that we do right now. But we do that because that's where our strength is. That's where we're best applied. And as we continue to build management processes and grow, that's where we start to look for management intensive type stuff where we have more wherewithal inside of our team. Right now, we still have these things that are our best resource. And as that grows, and it's the same way of what your day looks like, our day is getting further and further from inside the streets and more into the office every day. And then guess what? That's going to start to attract a different type of deal. And it's going to make you more sophisticated or less sophisticated, depending how you're looking at it. But it's just growth in general. And it's fun to watch. And really to go back to it is we were talking about selling a piece, and then I told my friend to keep it. But then in the end, I said, you need to figure out what's right for you. If you and your wife decide that you'd rather look at $1 million in your bank account and that allows you to quit, then go do it. And if you like having the monthly income coming in at whatever, $15,000, $20,000 a month, and that makes you survive, then do it that way and don't sell them. But either way, just know what's going to make you feel comfortable before you exit and allow you to live and breathe. Because the last thing you want to do is go cut this off and then not like what you're doing. So
yeah, let's end on this note of something I was thinking about, because this happens all the time. People will complain, or they'll say like, I don't have time to find more deals. I don't have time to do my own bookkeeping. I don't have time to do all this stuff. I don't have the budget and I don't have time. And you do if you, number one, say you do, and if you prioritize it. Right? If your entire day, let's say you're like a real estate agent, and your entire day is chauffeuring around buyers or chauffeuring around sellers, doing your own seller, your own listings. You're just doing everything hands-on, and your day starts at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, your phone starts ringing, and then at 6 o'clock at night, you're exhausted, and you're like, I know I was busy and I'm exhausted, but I feel like I didn't accomplish anything today. And that's typically what happens. You know if you're accomplishing stuff or not accomplishing stuff. And typically the days where I'm like, yeah, like I accomplished a lot today. And I'm like, not even exhausted, because you did it the right way. High leverage, productive, proactive stuff. And you allowed yourself to do that, right? Like if your phone rings all day, like unfortunately, and you're like, well, I have buyers, sellers, lenders. I don't want to, I got to talk to them. Like that's important. Like you got to prioritize your productive stuff and do it. And whatever, if you're just starting out and you got to work more and hustle more, then do that. That's what it takes. But you've got to prioritize the right stuff. And then it's not even that it becomes a habit. It's just do it. Like you don't sweat the small stuff. Like if I have a good borrower that calls me, like a repeat borrower that calls me, and they're like, hey, I got a home run deal I need to close soon. Like that's very important, but that's not growth oriented. Right. And I know that sounds crazy, right? I know like that's reactive, not proactive. And you know what? if I'm doing something, and it could be something as little as like creating a video or, training an employee or onboarding a new software, whatever it is, something proactive and offense, that is more important than that potential lead. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but and that lead's important, and you'll get to that, but you got to be doing offense regularly and creating it a habit. That's the takeaway.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I was going to ask you a question or like a scenario, because there's scenarios where you could be running defense, but ultimately it creates an offensive play, right? Like let's say your lead gen, there's something broken in your lead gen system, and then you're working on it. Is that considered? And then you come up with a new process for it. Is that considered defensive
or offense? That's offense, because you're fixing something. I mean, the goal of all of this, of everything, is what we talked about: the word passive, automated, things like that, right? Like you're creating, like in essence, like I think you win when you don't have to play any offense anymore, right? Like, and I'm not saying you're playing defense, but like when it's like, cool, I wake up, got a deal, close it, bought a property today, bought another property today, bought another property today.
And I was going to say, when you said, would you say passive or offense? You were just saying something like where it's like,
if everything's done passively or automated for you.
So
income's coming in passively, and everything inside your business is automated.
But I want to be clear here. That is not passive and automated and ignoring your shit until something breaks. It's passive and automated that things are working, and it's no different whether you're there or you're not, and nobody's looking for you, and you have a full-blown management team or you have full-blown processes in place, right? Like there's a big difference. And, you'll know where I'm going with this, Jason, is there's guys that are like, hey, man, I sold a property and I got the rest of my portfolio, but I'm going to go enjoy my life, but the money's still coming in. No, you're ignoring your shit. You're putting one thing on pause to go enjoy your life, and then you're going to come back and deal with all the bullshit that's fallen out, rather than saying, man, I just scored a few $100,000 or a couple $100,000 or whatever it is.
No doubt.
I'm going to go reinvest it now, and I'm going to fucking work harder just a little bit more. And guess what? Once I do that, this flow doesn't stop, man. Like you can't stop it. I don't want to say me and you are at the point that we could basically not do anything anymore, but we're in a really good spot that if something were to happen to us medically, or we went away for a month and couldn't answer the phone, and something happened, our businesses will continue to run for a pretty foreseeable future versus someone who is a solopreneur or doesn't have processes in place and they get hurt and it's like, shit, man, can you cover me? Like I'm in a bad spot, like almost immediately. Like it's just a house of cards. I think that's the big difference here. And it's not a comparison. It's the real truth.
It's also, if that's what you want, like if your goal is like, hey, I want $100,000 of passive income a year, or $1 million of passive income a year, whatever it is, right? And you've accomplished that where the income's passively coming in and it can't be stopped. Your business is completely automated and it can't be stopped. Maybe you put a CEO in or some high-level executives or whatever it is. I'm not saying that's what I want. I'm just saying, like, you have to reach your goal. I mean, look at Sam Zell, look at Warren Buffett. Every year, their net worth. And again, like, money's not the most important thing, but it certainly is a scoreboard of how successful that they've been. Like, if you're weird about talking about money, just think about it as a scoreboard. That's all you got to think about. And then you don't have to worry about the dollars and cents side of it. It's a scoreboard. But theirs is growing every month, right? So, we're not contradicting ourselves when we're saying the end goal is to automate and everything should be passive, so you 100% don't have to do anything. If that's what you want to be your end goal, then that is the sign. You have enough money coming in passively, and you don't have to do anything inside your business, and the spigot can't be stopped. Can't be stopped, and that's not all that easy to do. So, that's just how it's set up. So.
But now is the time. Like now is the time. Whether you're getting involved, you already have a portfolio, you have a big portfolio. There's always time when I've been betting to John recently. Like there's been a few days where I'm just like, Jesus, man, I don't even feel like fucking working today. And I'm glad you said it earlier in this conversation. It's a loss of direction. And there's a billion and fucking one things to do around here. If you guys saw my office, you would laugh. I mean, you can see the overflowing trash can, right? But there's a billion and one things to get done. And it's funny that you said that loss of direction. And today I'm like, I'm on point today, dude. Like I feel it, right? Like I've been knocking each little task item out, and it feels good. And it feels good to have purpose. And I think a lot of people who gain success, at some point they lose that purpose because they went from building it with their hands and having to grind it the fuck out. And then it's like, wow, man, things just got exponentially easier because we have staff or because the properties are stabilized. What do I do next? Oh, shit. Okay, like, I'm just going to enjoy it. No, now's the time to go look for another deal or fix your processes or look for anything that's broken or get your taxes done or whatever the heck it is. Now's the time to do that, right? Like, and then just build it today, and tomorrow will be just that much better.
Yeah. So. All right. Three quick takeaways, and we'll wrap this episode up.
One, don't drink any Bud Light. Two, no.
You know, to find your day and create habits based on growth activities and transactional activities. When you're sitting down doing an activity, you know, even if you have to write it down, is this a growth activity? Is this helping my business grow? Or is this in essence just running my business and doing what my business is supposed to be doing? A real estate closing transaction is a transactional transaction. It is not a growth transaction. A growth transaction was that stamp that you licked, that envelope that you licked and put a stamp on it because you're a one-man band and you have a very limited budget and you're just starting out and you're doing direct mail flyers, right? That is a growth activity, right? It might sound like you're overqualified to do that, and you probably are, but that is still a growth activity to do that. Eventually, you're going to get to the point that you're not going to do that. But if that's what it takes at the beginning to do it, it's a growth activity. It has to happen, right? So marketing for a transaction that closes 6 months later, when it closes and you get paid, that's a transactional transaction. So 50-50, make sure you do that. Understanding what your end goal is and working backwards, because so many folks don't know what their end goal is. If your end goal is to have passive income and a business that runs itself, write it down on a piece of paper. I think that's a great end goal. I don't think anyone's going to hate on you because you make all the money that you want and you can't stop that money coming in, and it's passive and your business is automated. That's a great end goal. Yep. If that's what you want. And number 3, all of this stuff is to constantly build this snowball, a big snowball that has a lot of momentum and will knock down anything in its way. And if you have a bad day, bad month, bad year, and whatever, a recession hits or interest rates double, it takes a notch out of your snowball. It doesn't take you out of business, right? The snowball can be, a war chest of money. It could be a war chest of leads and opportunities or deals or a team where all of a sudden it's like, hey, you have multiple people on your team that if one important person quits or you have to fire them, it doesn't shut down your entire operation. Yeah. Right. And I know a lot of smaller operations don't think like that, but it doesn't, like there's hundreds of different things that you can think about mentally as a snowball and grow them all and make them big and powerful, because the bigger they are, the smaller, the harder they'll be to completely collapse.
Yep. Yeah. And I would say just talking here and writing down notes during our show, because guys, these are like legit masterminds for us. Like when me and Jason talk, this is all the stuff that we would talk about in real time. Is like, I'd say number 1 is making sure you have a purpose. That's what personally motivates me. Number 2, knowing your tasks, like just keeping lists. There's always something to do. And finally, I would say figure out how to be on offense more than defense. And I think that's a common theme throughout this podcast that you'll hear reiterated over and over and over again. Figure out how you can be on offense instead of defense, and your business will be exponentially more successful. It'll be a lot less stressful, and it'll be ultimately a whole bunch more fun that you'll want to get more people involved, do more deals, have family members involved, whatever it is. it'll be that much more fun. So I'm actually glad we did this topic because Jason's like, hey, what do you want to talk about today? I was like, I don't know, man. And I'm glad he brought this up because it kind of wrapped up my past 2 weeks of like a lull that I've had. And this is a really good conversation. And guys, I know you, I'm telling you, this is just off the fly, what was on top of our heads. And if you guys got any value out of this, please feel free to share it. We do these mostly just so me and Jason have a reason to talk to each other all day. But we like giving back. And if you found any value out of this, please feel free to share it. If you could like or comment on YouTube or give us a 5-star review on Apple iTunes, that'd be awesome. But this is our exact feelings, and we look forward to catching you guys on the next one, man. So
later.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time, thank you for tuning in.